Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and please like and subscribe to this channel as I will be making more videos for your enjoyment and learning abilities of guitar. So today we're going to continue this improvisation concept, and so the last video that I posted, I went through all the inversions in C major, and I talked about the 1, 4, 5. So we did that along the whole fretboard, and we did a little bit of the 6 chord as well. So the 1 chord in C major is C major, the 4 chord is F major, and the 5 chord is G major, and the 6 chord is A minor. So I'm going to be playing along with a backing track today, and the backing track is going to be C major, then it's going to go through A minor, then it's going to go through F major, and then G major. So it's going to go 1, 6, 4, 5. So I'm going to give you some ideas that you can use with these inversions. So I hope that you've mapped out all the inversions and mapped out where all the roots are in each one. I know it's a lot of work. It's not a lot of work, but it's just something that you have to apply yourself to be able to use these in any given setting, and just have them memorized in your back pocket so you can pull them out whenever you're in an improvisation setting. So I'm going to give you a few ideas of how to start using these inversions. You were going to get into, we talked about just the root of each inversion in the last video. Now we're going to kind of get into talking about the 3rd and the 5th, because inversions are based around using your root, 3rd to 5th. So there are only 3 notes because that's what's in the chord, is a triad. So each inversion is just dealing with 3 notes, and we're going to get into how to use them. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, so again, we're in the key of C major. We're going to be using these inversions. So one of the main things that I always tell people when you're doing improvisation is, if you're coming from a place from a major chord, you're always going to slide from the 2nd to the 3rd. And then when you're over a minor chord, you're always going to be sliding from the 5th to the 7th note of the scale. So when we're in the key of C major and we're on the 1 chord, we have a C major chord. So the triad is C, E, G. So there's going to be an inversion in many different places, of course, but when you're using these inversions, like I said, you want to try to think of sliding from the 2nd to the 3rd. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about mainly today. And then we're over the A minor, which is the 6th chord. We're going to talk about sliding from the 5th to the 7th. So this is just one idea where you can start to utilize some of these inversions. So again, C major, C, E, G. So the C is the root, the E is the 3rd, and then the G is the 5th. So we're going to come up to, we're going to do this inversion that we talked about here, and the root's going to be on the 1st string. So you're going to bar the first 2 strings on the 8th fret, and 2nd finger is going to be on the 9th fret, 3rd string. And you're just playing the first 3 strings there. So we're going to talk about how to use that sliding from the 2nd to the 3rd. So C is 1, the 2nd of the scale is the D. So C is 1, D is 2, and then E is 3, the 3rd. So if the C is here on the 5th fret of the 3rd string, you're going to slide, and you always want to use your 3rd finger when you're doing slides, 99% of the time. So you're going to slide from the 7th to the 9th fret on the 3rd string, and that's going to be your D to E, which is your 2nd to 3rd. So if you can always think of that when you're improvising, and always use those 2nds to 3rds to slide, or you can use those actually for your bends as well, and we'll talk about that later. But just sliding from that 2nd to 3rd. So you got the C here, you're sliding from the D to the E, right? And then you kind of finish off playing that inversion. So what I like to do a lot of times is come from the string above it, which is the 4th string, and you're kind of in your C major pentatonic scale here in a way. So what you want to do is start on the 5th, which is the G, hammer on to the A, which is the 7th fret of the D string, and then go to your root, and that's where you're going to slide from the D to the E, and then you finish barring off the first 2 strings, right? So Okay. And now you're in this position here, and then again, if you want, you can slide from that D to E up here as well. So you're just basically in the next kind of inversion, right? So there's an inversion right here on the 5th fret. If you bar the 5th fret of the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd string, you have that one inversion there, right? Then you're kind of sliding into this inversion here with your C on the 4th string, 10th fret, E on the 9th fret, and then your G on the 2nd string, 8th fret, right? So you got this, and then you're basically going to the high E string root with the C, and you're doing that inversion there, right? So you're with that little lick going, okay? And sometimes I switch to my 2nd finger when I'm doing that slide from the 7 to the 9 with D to E, and then it kind of fits into your finger a little bit better when you're going to bar those first 2 strings. So, and then you can do that slide up to the 1st string if you want. So that's over the C chord, right? Then when it goes to the 6th chord, like I said, anytime I'm on a 6th chord in a progression, I always just treat it as if I'm playing in, you know, the minor key. So in this case, we're just in, it's over an A minor chord. So I just basically think of playing in A minor pentatonic. So if you have all your 5 pentatonics mapped out in A minor, you can utilize those over the 6th chord. And like I said, over the 6th chord, I always, which is a minor chord, I always think of the 5th to the 7th, and that is D to E in A minor. So you have kind of this triad or this inversion here, right? So that's your A on the 10th fret, E on the 9th fret, and then C on the 10th fret there. Okay, so you can slide from the D to E into that one there. So you slide from the 7 to the 9, and you don't always have to start on the root. You can just start on those slides. So 7 to 9, which is actually the 2nd to 3rd of the C chord, I know. And then you got that there, and then you can go to 8th fret there on the 2nd string, 10th fret, which is your A, and then you go to the C and you slide up to there. Okay, so that one could be, okay. Then when you're on the F chord, you can have this one, again, you're using that sort of same thing that I said where you got this, you're gonna do a hammer on from the 10 to the 12 on the 4th string, then you play the 10th fret of the 3rd string, and then you're gonna slide from the 12 to the 14th fret, which is your 2nd to 3rd of the F chord. Then you bar the first 2 strings, and then you play the C and the F, and then you can slide again if you want up to there. And then the last one, which is over the 5 chord, just do the same thing up 2 frets. So hammer on 12 to 14, get the G on the 3rd string, which you're kind of outlining a G chord right here, and then you're going to slide with your 2nd finger from the 14 to the 16, bar the first 2 strings, and then you can slide up to there, right? So over the C chord, we got then the A chord, then the F chord, and then the G chord. So this is pretty simple stuff, but we can definitely build on top of it. But the important thing is to utilize some of these inversions and be able to use them in your improvised setting. So I'm going to play along with the backing track and just do a little simple thing. And this again is a C chord, A minor, F, and then G. So again, pretty simple sort of concept, but you can see you can get a lot of mileage out of just using sliding from the second to the third over that particular chord. And then of course, if you're on a minor, you're going to slide from the fifth to the seventh. Okay. So you got a lot of inversions in the fretboard, a lot of areas where you can use these slides. So definitely experiment with them and see where you can use those seconds to thirds as well. So I hope that helped a little bit for your tips on improvisation and using your inversions. And we will get into more inversion ideas using some of these slides, bends, and I'll talk about a little bit of other things that can help you using your improvisation to fulfill all needs when you're going into some sort of setting of doing your solo or someone you're jamming with, and you can have some ideas to use. Okay, have fun. Cheers.